They betrayed you. They humiliated you. They made you feel powerless. But if you think the solution is to fight back, yell louder, hit harder, you've already lost. The Stoics, masters of mental warfare, believed that real victory comes not through violence, but through virtue. In this video, you'll learn 15 Stoic tactics to defeat your enemies without ever raising your voice. Drawn from the minds of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, these lessons will give you the power to walk into any confrontation with unshakable control, absolute clarity, and quiet dominance. Because sometimes the most powerful retaliation is none at all. Tactic 1. See through the mask. Imagine standing across from a man who just betrayed you. His words cut deep. His posture screams defiance. Everything in your body wants to retaliate, to match his fire with your own. Your fists clench. Your jaw tightens. The storm is rising. But then something shifts. You remember the teachings of the Stoics. You remember that what you're looking at is not a man in control. It's a mask, a fragile layer covering chaos within. The Stoics understood human behavior not as random cruelty, but as a reflection of deeper internal struggles. Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." That man who disrespected you, he's not powerful. He's not in command. He's driven by fear, shaped by wounds, ruled by impulses. He's wearing armor made of ego and insecurity, and he's hoping you don't notice. When you see this clearly, everything changes. His aggression is no longer personal. It's a performance. His insult is no longer a blade. It's a mirror reflecting his inner turmoil. You begin to realize that your strength doesn't lie in reacting louder, faster, or stronger. Your strength lies in stillness, in seeing through the mask, not being provoked by it. So instead of retaliating, you observe. You ask yourself, what is he defending? What does he fear? What belief is he clinging to so tightly that he's willing to lash out just to protect it? Every insult becomes a clue. Every attack becomes an invitation to understand. And every time you refuse to mirror his chaos, you grow more powerful because you are no longer controlled by his mask or your own. This is the first real victory, not over him, but over yourself. The ability to restrain the impulse to react, to decode rather than detonate, is the beginning of unshakable self-mastery. And to the man driven by emotion and ego, your silence will be louder than any retaliation. So when you're met with hostility, don't see an enemy. See a man drowning in the storm of his own mind. And while he thrashes, you stay still. You become the mountain he can't move. That's how you defeat your enemies without ever drawing a sword, by refusing to wear the same mask they do. Tactic 2. Choose your battlefield. Picture yourself walking through a chaotic street. Voices are shouting, emotions flaring, tension rising with every step. People are bumping into you, some intentionally, some out of carelessness. A shove here, a glare there, a biting word meant to provoke. Every part of you feels like reacting, like turning and striking back, proving you won't be disrespected. But the Stoic pauses. He doesn't react to every push. He doesn't fight every war. He chooses his battlefield with precision. In today's world, conflict is constant. Online debates, passive-aggressive coworkers, drivers who cut you off, friends who let you down. If you respond to every slight, you become enslaved to the moods and behaviors of everyone around you. Your energy becomes a puppet. The Stoics rejected this. They understood that the man who fights every fight never wins the war. He just wears himself down until there's nothing left of him but reaction. Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." Why delay? Because delay gives you space to see clearly. When you're in the grip of emotion, your vision narrows. You only see the insult, the disrespect, the threat to your ego. But when you wait just a moment, you begin to ask deeper questions. Is this fight worth my energy? Will this matter in a week, a year, a lifetime? Or is this just noise? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always have the option of having no opinion." That is a radical idea. In a world that screams at you to respond, to defend yourself, to always have something to say, silence is an act of strength. You don't always need to prove yourself. The man who proves nothing, because he knows who he is, cannot be shaken. Choosing your battlefield means protecting your energy, like a soldier who guards his last bullet. You don't waste it on ego wars. You don't fire back at every provocation. You aim only when the target matters. And that restraint, it rattles your enemy far more than rage ever could. Because they expect chaos, they expect retaliation. When you meet their fire with calm, they begin to question their own power. And if you truly want to defeat your enemies without a fight, here's the secret. Make them fight themselves. Let them waste their strength trying to pull you into their drama. Let them shout into silence. Let them throw punches at a ghost. Because when you don't show up to the battlefield, you win without lifting a finger. Not every war needs to be fought. Not every insult needs an answer. Sometimes the greatest flex is to walk away without a scratch, because you never even stepped into the mud. That's not weakness. That's mastery. And when the dust settles, the only man still standing will be the one who never knelt to his impulses. Tactic 3. Master the tone of your voice. Imagine you're in a confrontation. Tension fills the air. The other person is getting louder, agitated, their emotions spilling out like fire. They expect you to rise with them, to match their anger, to lose your balance, to become reactive. But instead, you pause. You speak slowly, calmly, with measured weight behind every word. And just like that, the energy shifts. You've taken control, without shouting, without violence. This is the hidden weapon the Stoics carried with them everywhere: tone. The battlefield isn't always made of fists and fury. Sometimes it's fought with voices. And the man who masters his voice masters the room. Seneca wrote, "Speech that is restrained is more persuasive than speech that flows too freely." What he meant is simple. When everyone else loses themselves in emotion, the man who controls his delivery controls the outcome. The louder the world gets, the more powerful silence becomes. The more chaotic your enemy becomes, the more devastating your calm presence feels. Think about the generals, the leaders, the men who truly command respect. They don't bark, they don't scream, they speak with certainty. Because their words don't seek validation, they carry weight. They don't speak to win arguments, they speak to direct them. This is where the Stoic separates himself from ordinary men. When provoked, most react. Their voice rises, their breathing shortens, their sentences get sharper, faster, more reckless. But not the Stoic. The Stoic responds. He waits. He breathes. He lets silence stretch just long enough to make the other man feel uncertain. Because he knows that silence isn't empty. It's loaded. So how do you master this power? Start by slowing down. Before speaking, take a breath. Let the moment breathe. Then speak with intention, not emotion. Your tone should be clear, level, and firm. Never shaky, never sarcastic. You don't need to rush to fill the silence. Let your words be few, but full. Say less, but say it with absolute control. Avoid blaming language. Instead of saying you always do this, say, I need to feel respected in this moment. That one shift alone turns conflict into clarity. It deactivates defensiveness and positions you as a man of reason, not emotion. And remember, you're not just speaking to be heard. You're speaking to direct the energy of the conversation. A composed voice can calm a storm or expose the storm in someone else. Your enemy expects rage. Give them restraint. They expect noise. Give them stillness. They want chaos. You give them command. Because once you've mastered your tone, your words don't need to be loud. They just need to be final. And that's how the Stoic defeats his enemies without a fight. By speaking with the power of a man who cannot be shaken. Tactic 4. Find the shared summit. Imagine two climbers scaling different sides of the same mountain. To the outside observer, they look like enemies, moving in opposite directions, each focused on their own path. But what they don't see is this: both climbers are heading toward the same peak. They just don't know it yet. This is the Stoic understanding of conflict, not as a war to be won, but as a misunderstanding to be dissolved. The fourth tactic is about discovering common ground and using it as your advantage. Marcus Aurelius believed that the universe was one, interconnected whole, that every soul was part of the same body. He wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." In other words, what benefits us must, in some deeper way, also benefit the other. So when you're in conflict with someone, the Stoic doesn't immediately ask, "How do I defeat them?" Instead, he asks, "What do we both truly want?" That's the key to this tactic. Beneath the surface disagreement, there's almost always a shared value, a common pain, or a mutual goal. Anger clouds it, ego buries it, but it's there. You just have to be the one to look for it first. Most men never even try. They're too consumed by being right, too wrapped up in their own narrative to realize the person they're fighting may actually want the same thing: respect, peace, resolution, to feel heard. The Stoic sets his pride aside long enough to search for this overlap, not because he's weak, but because it's the most strategic thing he can do. Here's how you apply it. When facing a tense situation, shift from me versus you to us versus the problem. Reframe the conflict. Ask, what's the outcome we both want? Then speak to that shared desire. If they want dignity, give it. If they want to be understood, offer it. Not as a concession, but as a tool. Because when someone feels seen, they put their weapons down. Even if the shared goal is small, start there. Small agreements build trust. Trust builds openness. And from openness comes resolution. Every time you find the common summit, the enemy becomes less of a threat and more of a partner in solving the situation. This doesn't mean you abandon your values. It means you recognize that most people aren't out to destroy you. They're just reacting from their own fear, insecurity, or unmet need, same as you. By looking for that overlap, you're not losing power. You're turning confrontation into cooperation without ever sacrificing your position. And when others see that you can de-escalate tension, find solutions, and keep your cool, they'll respect you. They'll trust you. Even your enemies will begin to question their hostility. And that's when you've already won. not just the argument, but the long game. Tactic 5. Appeal to their inner values. Picture a massive oak tree, deeply rooted in the earth. You can't move it by force. You can push, pull, scream at it, but it won't budge. That's your enemy's belief system. The more you attack it head on, the more it resists. But the Stoics taught a subtler approach: influence, not invasion. If you want to move the oak, you don't push the trunk, you nourish the roots. This is the 5th tactic. Appeal to their inner values, not their ego. Epictetus said, "If someone does wrong, it is because they believe it is right." That's critical. People don't act out of pure malice. They act from their own internal compass, even when it's broken. So instead of confronting them with your values, the Stoic listens for theirs, and then speaks directly to what they already believe in. Let's say you're dealing with someone disrespectful. Instead of calling them out for being rude, you might say, "I know you value honesty, and I respect that. I just want to make sure we're being honest with each other in a way that builds respect, not resentment." That subtle shift changes everything. You're not accusing, you're aligning. You're anchoring your position to their principles. And by doing that, you bypass resistance and speak to the part of them that still wants to do what's right. This tactic is not manipulation. It's philosophical Aikido. You're redirecting their energy, not suppressing it. You're finding the moral foundation they already stand on and showing them how to stand stronger. Most people want to be consistent with who they believe they are. When you hold up a mirror to their values and show them how their current behavior contradicts it, they often correct themselves without even realizing you guided them there. But to do this well, you must observe closely. Listen, watch. What do they praise? What do they criticize? What do they say matters most to them? Justice, loyalty, integrity. Use that language. Speak in their value system, not yours. And once you do, you create dissonance, not through attack, but through reflection. And here's the real power. When they feel that you understand them, that you see their intentions, not just their actions, it disarms defensiveness. They begin to lower their guard. They stop fighting for ego and start responding from character. The Stoic doesn't win arguments. He awakens conscience. He plants seeds in the soil of someone's identity and lets their own values do the work. And in the quiet that follows, he walks away undefeated because he didn't overpower them. He guided them back to themselves. Tactic 6. Use silence as a weapon. Picture yourself standing in a storm. Someone is screaming in your face, accusing, blaming, demanding a reaction. Every part of the room feels like it's vibrating with tension. Most men would fire back, argue, justify, defend their pride. But the Stoic, he does something different. He remains silent. No raised voice, no rebuttal, no attempt to dominate the conversation. Just calm, measured stillness. And suddenly, the storm no longer has power. Because it's not being met with another storm. It's being absorbed by something stronger, something immovable. This is the power of Stoic silence, and it's one of the most disarming weapons you'll ever possess. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us, you always have the option not to have an opinion. That single sentence destroys the illusion that you owe the world your reaction. You don't. And in moments of confrontation, silence is not weakness, it's warfare. Because the man who chooses silence while under attack is not being passive, he's being precise. Why does silence work so powerfully? Because it creates psychological pressure. When someone speaks and receives no immediate reply, their words start to echo in their own mind. They second guess. They repeat themselves. They search your face for validation, for pushback, something, anything that tells them they've rattled you. But you give them nothing. Silence forces them to sit with their own emotion, their own insecurity, their own noise. And without your reaction to feed off, their fire begins to burn out. That's the brilliance of it. You're not suppressing the conflict. You're suffocating it by refusing to give it oxygen. But silence is not just for the opponent. It's for you. In that stillness, you gain the upper hand internally. You create space between impulse and action. You let the first wave of anger pass without capsizing your reason. You buy time. You regain control. You become your own commander in the heat of battle. The Stoics didn't use silence to avoid responsibility. They used it to distill clarity. Seneca practiced long pauses before responding to emotional conversations. Epictetus taught that controlling your tongue was the first step to mastering your mind. Because silence is a gatekeeper. It stops chaos from entering and keeps your dignity from leaving. There's another effect too, one that goes unspoken but deeply felt. People remember how you don't react. They may forget your words, but they'll never forget how uncomfortable they felt when you held the line in silence, refusing to give away your center. Your silence becomes presence, authority. It marks you as someone who cannot be manipulated, baited, or broken. So when provoked, take a breath. Hold your posture. Let your silence speak. Let it echo louder than any insult. Let it break the rhythm of the aggressor. And when you do choose to speak, let every word fall like a hammer, not because of how loud it is, but because of the silence that preceded it. Silence is not emptiness. It's discipline. It's strategy. And in the Stoics' arsenal, it's as sharp as any blade. Tactic 7. Lead with empathy, not ego. Picture two men in a dispute, faces tight with tension, arms crossed like armor. Neither wants to budge. Neither wants to be the first to soften. Because in their minds, softening means surrender. But the Stoic sees it differently. He knows that the most powerful move isn't to harden, is to understand. This is the 7th tactic. Lead with empathy, not ego. Now, let's be clear. Empathy is not weakness. It's not submission. It's not letting someone walk over you. It's the ability to see through the fog of conflict and recognize that every outburst, every insult, every irrational reaction is coming from somewhere deeper, somewhere wounded, somewhere human. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question. What fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I'm about to criticize? That's not just humility, it's tactical awareness. Because when you understand what fuels another person's aggression, you gain leverage. You move beyond the surface. You stop reacting to what they said and start responding to why they said it. Most men meet anger with more anger. But the Stoic knows that's just pouring fuel on the fire. Instead, he steps into the other person's perspective. He listens, not to agree, but to understand. He watches, not to judge, but to read between the lines. And when he finally speaks, it's not from ego, it's from clarity, calm, and groundedness. Here's what this looks like in practice. Instead of snapping back, you say something like, "It seems like this situation means a lot to you. I want to understand what you're feeling. You don't have to approve of their behavior. but you can acknowledge their emotion. And that single act, it drops defenses. It shatters the expected script of conflict. It brings a conversation back to something real. Empathy in conflict is a power move because it neutralizes escalation. It centers the discussion. It exposes the fear or insecurity underneath the aggression, often before the other person is even aware of it. And in that moment, you take control of the conversation without ever raising your voice. But this requires strength, because empathy demands that you drop your need to dominate and replace it with the courage to connect, to see not just the opponent in front of you, but the pain behind them, the brokenness, the blind spot, the boy underneath the man. And when you do that, when you look someone in the eyes, remain calm and show that you understand their frustration without feeding it, you become the one thing they can't fight against. Someone who isn't there to destroy them, but to disarm them. In the hands of the Stoic, empathy is not softness. It is strategy. It is control. It is emotional jujitsu, and it wins battles without shedding blood, because it speaks to the heart behind the conflict, not just the noise on the surface. Tactic 8. Embrace the art of compromise. Picture an ancient oak tree standing in the middle of a storm. Wind howls, rain pounds, the sky roars with fury. A weaker tree would snap under the pressure, stiff, rigid, unyielding. But the oak bends. It moves with the wind. It gives just enough to survive. And when the storm ends, it stands tall, roots even deeper. This is not surrender. This is strategy. And this is exactly how a Stoic handles conflict. Too many men confuse compromise with defeat. They think giving ground is weakness. They think adapting means losing. But the Stoics knew better. They understood that pride is one of the most expensive things a man can own, because it often costs him peace, clarity, and growth. Epictetus reminds us, seek not to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will find peace. In other words, stop clinging to how you think things should go. Stop demanding reality bend to your will. Instead, align with what is, and navigate it with intention. That is Stoic strength, the ability to remain powerful within what life offers, not in opposition to it. In conflict, that means letting go of the idea that you must win every argument, dominate every exchange, or be agreed with every time. It means asking the higher question: what actually matters here? What part of this is about principle? And what part is just about my pride? When you embrace compromise from this mindset, you're not submitting, you're sharpening. You're removing emotional fat and protecting only what is essential. Your values, your inner peace, your direction. You're saying, I'll move where I can, but where I can't, I stand immovable. And when done right, this disarms people, because the ego expects resistance. It expects a power struggle. But when you calmly and clearly draw the line, not with force, but with conviction, you change the dynamic. You're no longer another opponent trying to win. You become a presence in the room who's impossible to shake. Here's how to apply this practically. Identify your core principles in the conflict: truth, respect, fairness. Then name what's negotiable: the details, the delivery, the timelines. Speak this distinction out loud. Let the other person know where you're willing to move and where you're not. Not emotionally, but clearly, deliberately. And stay calm, always. This tactic turns confrontation into collaboration, not because you gave in, but because you controlled the frame. You led the conversation to a place of structure instead of chaos. And even if you don't walk away with everything you wanted, you leave with something far greater: self-respect, emotional control, and often a solution that benefits both sides. Because the Stoic knows it's not about being right, it's about being effective. And sometimes effectiveness means knowing when to give an inch, so you can later walk miles without resistance. Compromise isn't retreat, it's realignment. It's what separates the rigid from the resilient. And if you can bend without breaking, move without losing yourself, you become the kind of man that storms can't touch. Tactic 9. Seek external aid without shame. Imagine yourself caught in a dense thorn-covered thicket. Every move you make cuts deeper. You've twisted, turned, tried every direction. But the more you struggle alone, the more entangled you become. Your pride whispers, "Don't ask for help. You're a man. Figure it out yourself." So you stay stuck, bleeding, wounded, exhausted, not because you lacked a way out, but because you refused to call out. The Stoics would call this exactly what it is: self-inflicted suffering. This is the 9th Stoic tactic. Seek external aid, without shame, without hesitation, and without letting pride sabotage your peace. Seneca taught, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." But here's the catch. Proving yourself does not mean isolating yourself. Strength is not found in stubborn solitude. It's found in the wisdom to know when your vision is clouded, and in the courage to invite clarity in. Our culture loves to romanticize the lone wolf, the self-made man, the silent sufferer. But Stoicism is not about isolation. It's about growth. It's about clarity. It's about becoming better, not by pretending to know everything, but by being willing to learn. And often, that growth accelerates the moment you bring in a mentor, a mediator, a third party, someone with perspective outside your emotional storm. Because here's what happens in conflict. Emotions tighten your lens. You stop seeing clearly. You see enemies where there are misunderstandings. You see disrespect where there's insecurity. And the longer you stew in your own interpretations, the deeper the hole becomes. A Stoic doesn't fall for this trap. He recognizes when his internal compass is spinning and reaches out. Think of Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor surrounded by chaos, politics, betrayal. Even he had advisors, philosophers, generals, people he leaned on, people he trusted to speak truth when his emotions were too loud. Do you think that made him weak? Number that made him wise. Unshakable leaders don't reject guidance, they rely on it. Here's how this works in practice. You find a neutral voice, not someone who feeds your bias, but someone who challenges your perspective. You invite mediation, not to win the argument, but to uncover the truth beneath the tension. You say, "Help me see what I can't right now." And in that moment, you shift from reactivity to responsibility. Most men wait until it's too late, until the damage is permanent, until the relationship is gone, until the job is lost, until the wound festers. But the Stoic acts before the collapse. He sees the signs, he feels the weight, and he has the discipline to ask for direction while there's still time to pivot. Understand this. Asking for help is not defeat. It is the refusal to be defeated. It is the moment when the man chooses movement over misery. And once you begin to normalize this, you build a support system that sharpens you, not softens you. A circle that calls out your ego, but protects your purpose. A network that honors truth, not your version of it, but the real thing. This is how the Stoic navigates entanglement, not by wrestling alone, but by inviting clarity in, by opening the window when the smoke gets too thick. And in doing so, he proves something deeper, that he is not just strong in solitude, but powerful in community, not just a fortress, but a force. So the next time your conflict feels like a dead end, remember, you're not a weaker man for asking. You're a wiser one, because the oak tree may be rooted in the ground, but even it reaches toward the sun to grow. Tactic 10. Forgive without permission. Imagine carrying a burning coal in your bare hand, convinced that somehow holding onto it will hurt your enemy. You grip it tighter, teeth clenched, convinced it proves something. But the only one burning is you. This is what resentment does. It convinces you that you're staying strong, when in truth, you're slowly self-destructing. The 10th Stoic tactic is not flashy. It doesn't feel satisfying in the moment, but it is devastatingly effective. Forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Seneca said, "He who is angry is always suffering." And that's the truth most men refuse to face. Anger feels powerful. Grudges feel righteous. The desire for revenge feels like justice. But beneath all of it is something darker: stagnation. You stay trapped in the moment they wronged you. You replay it. You feed it. And unknowingly, you give them free real estate in your mind. The Stoic knows this is poison. He knows that to truly defeat an enemy, you have to remove the hooks they've left in your soul. And forgiveness? That's how you pull them out, not to excuse the behavior, but to end the control it still holds over you. Let's be clear. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's not letting the other person off the hook. It's letting go of the need to punish. It's removing yourself from the emotional loop that keeps you angry, bitter, or vengeful. You can still set boundaries. You can still hold people accountable, but you no longer carry the fire they lit inside you. You put it out. Forgiveness, to the Stoic, is a declaration. You don't get to own my peace anymore. In practical terms, here's what it looks like. You recognize what happened, clearly, without sugarcoating or denial. You observe your reaction to it, the tension, the mental reruns, the emotional drain. And then you say, "This will no longer define me. I choose clarity over poison. I choose forward over fixation." That doesn't require an apology. It doesn't require reconciliation. It doesn't even require contact, because true forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about freeing the space in your soul that their memory has hijacked. This is one of the most brutal, yet freeing tactics in the Stoic playbook, because it requires you to let go of the ego's favorite narrative: they owe me. But the moment you stop waiting for them to fix it, you fix it yourself. You heal. You rise. You regain the power you thought they stole. And here's the paradox. When you forgive, you don't lose the battle. You win the war. You win your energy back, your clarity, your presence. You walk lighter. You think sharper. And your enemy, they become irrelevant, powerless, forgotten. The Stoic doesn't cling to offense. He burns the scorecard, because he knows that in the game of life, the man who can walk away unburdened is the one who moves fastest, who climbs higher, who breathes deepest. So drop the coal, not for them, for you. Tactic 11. Transform conflict into growth. Picture a battlefield, not of swords and shields, but of words, glances, misunderstandings, and raw emotion. You walk away bruised, not physically, but mentally. You're frustrated, embarrassed, maybe ashamed of how you reacted. But instead of collapsing into that emotion, the Stoic steps into it. He examines it. He turns it over in his hands and asks, "What did this just teach me about myself?" This is the 11th tactic. Transform every conflict into a furnace for growth. Epictetus didn't fear adversity. He welcomed it. He said, "Difficulties show a person's character." Why? Because conflict strips away illusions. It peels back the image you have of yourself and reveals what's really there. Not the man you pretend to be, but the man you are under pressure. And that reflection, painful as it may be, is where the path to greatness begins. Most people avoid this moment. They rationalize, they blame, they say, "It was the other person's fault." But the Stoic asks a better question. What did this conflict awaken in me? And how do I use that fire to forge something better? That's what makes this tactic so powerful. Because when you shift your mindset from victim of the situation to student of the experience, you take back your agency. You're no longer defined by what happened. You're refined by it. Let's break this down. Say someone insults you. You react. You lash out. Later, you feel regret. A non-Stoic buries that feeling or blames the other person. But the Stoic rewinds the moment. Why did that word cut so deep? What part of me was so fragile that it couldn't absorb a simple insult? Or maybe you were manipulated, betrayed, humiliated. You could spiral into bitterness, or you could reflect. Where was I blind? Where did I ignore red flags? What flaw in my judgment allowed this? Every fire leaves ashes, but also sparks. And the Stoic gathers those sparks to light a stronger flame, a wiser flame, a steadier mind. Here's how to apply this. After every conflict, reflect in writing, not to vent, but to dissect. Ask, what did I learn? Where did I lose control? What would the best version of me have done instead? Extract one core principle, a small, actionable truth. It might be, pause before reacting, or don't take things personally, or strength means nothing without awareness. Turn it into a habit, embed it, practice it. Let the lesson etch itself into your character, not just your memory. This is what separates the Stoic from the average man. He turns every emotional bruise into a blueprint, every conflict into curriculum, and over time, he becomes unrecognizable. Not because life stopped testing him, but because he used every test to grow. And that growth, that steady, relentless evolution, that's what defeats your enemies without a fight. Because while they're still reacting the same way, stuck in the same cycles, repeating the same mistakes, you've risen above. You've become untouchable, not because you avoid pain, but because you outgrew it. So the next time conflict comes knocking, don't just survive it, study it, use it, grow through it, because the Stoic never walks away unchanged. He walks away transformed. Tactic 12. Set boundaries that protect your peace. Picture yourself standing on a quiet shore. The waves roll in gently at your feet, but suddenly the tide rises. The waves grow aggressive. They begin to crash, invading your space, pulling at your footing. You didn't ask for this storm, but it's here. And if you don't draw a line, a boundary, it will consume you. This is the Stoic understanding of personal power, that peace is not found in isolation, but in control over what you allow in. This is the 12th Stoic tactic. Set boundaries that protect your energy, your time, and your inner state, and defend them with calm, unshakable certainty. Epictetus said, "It is not the events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. But judgments come from patterns, and patterns come from what we allow." If you constantly allow people to speak to you disrespectfully, to pull you into their drama, to consume your time with their chaos, your own mind becomes an extension of their noise. That's not virtue. That's weakness, disguised as tolerance. The Stoic draws lines, not with hostility, but with intention, not with aggression, but with clarity. You must ask yourself, what am I tolerating that I shouldn't be? Where am I allowing my peace to be negotiated? What does this cost me? Not just in time, but in mental clarity, in emotional energy, in alignment with who I want to be. Setting boundaries isn't about building walls. It's about designing a life where your inner world isn't dictated by external demands. It's about recognizing your limits and enforcing them with dignity. A Stoic doesn't apologize for needing space. He doesn't justify his standards. He doesn't beg for understanding. He simply states, "This is what I allow. This is what I don't." In practice, this means saying no without guilt, saying I need space without explanation, saying this doesn't work for me without anger, walking away from conversations that cross the line, not to prove a point, but to protect your peace. And yes, people will test your boundaries. They'll push. They'll guilt you. They'll accuse you of being cold or distant. But remember, people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always see your clarity as a threat. Let them. Because every time you hold your ground, you reinforce a deeper truth. I respect myself, and I'm not available for anything that tries to pull me away from that. The Stoic doesn't fear disapproval. He fears dishonoring his own principles. And when you live by that standard, calm, direct, and immovable, you become a man whose presence is peaceful because his borders are strong. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They define the space where virtue can thrive. And without them, chaos will always find a way in. Tactic 13. Control your reaction, or be controlled. Imagine standing in the center of a violent storm. Thunder cracks, the wind roars, the rain lashes against your skin. But in that moment, you're still. You do not flinch. You do not rage. You simply observe, present, grounded, immovable. Because while the storm rages around you, it does not enter you. This is the final Stoic tactic, to master your inner world so completely that nothing external can command it. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Those words contain the entire philosophy of Stoic warfare. You cannot control what others say. You cannot control betrayal, chaos, disrespect, or fate itself. But you can always control what you do next. And that single choice defines everything. The moment you react emotionally, impulsively, without reflection, you surrender control. You hand your power to someone else. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you create just a few seconds of space between the trigger and your response, you take it back. This is where the battle is truly fought. Not out there, but in here. Inside your mind. Inside that invisible space where your emotions surge and your reason waits. and the Stoic sharpens that space every single day. Think of your reactions like weapons. Some men draw their sword at the slightest provocation, but the Stoic polishes his sword and keeps it sheathed. He acts only when action is aligned with reason, not impulse, not ego. Discipline over emotion, precision over passion. That's what makes him lethal. Not because he strikes often, but because when he does, it's deliberate and unstoppable. Here's how you train this. When you feel anger rising, don't speak, don't move, breathe. Ask yourself, what part of me feels threatened right now? And is it real? Ask, will this matter in a year, in a week? Am I about to do something I'll regret? Then choose your response, not based on how you feel, but based on who you want to be. The more you practice this, the less reactive you become. The more you observe your mind in moments of tension, the more you realize you are not your emotion. You are the one watching it. That separation is where your freedom begins. And when your enemy sees that you cannot be provoked, that you cannot be baited, that you cannot be pulled from your frame, they begin to question their own power. Because in the presence of your calm, their chaos becomes obvious, their weakness becomes visible, and your silence, your restraint, your deliberate posture, it breaks them. This is the final victory, not a war waged with words or fists, but a silent triumph within yourself. The ability to face anything, insult, betrayal, loss, and remain intact, calm, centered, in control. The Stoic does not win by conquering others. He wins by never allowing others to conquer him. Tactic 14. Outlast them with discipline. Picture two men locked in an invisible war. One storms out of the gate, full of noise and emotion. His energy is explosive, loud threats, intense action, desperate moves. But it fades fast, his fire burns quick, and then dies. The other man, he moves slowly, quietly, every step calculated, every breath measured. He doesn't react, he builds. He doesn't seek attention, he seeks results. That man wins, not because he strikes harder, but because he lasts longer. This is the 14th Stoic tactic. Outlast your enemies, not through retaliation, but through relentless discipline. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Discipline is the refusal to be pulled into someone else's chaos. It's the quiet war of consistency, a battle most people aren't even aware they're losing. Your enemy may try to provoke you, interrupt your focus, draw you into petty conflict. They'll insult you, test your patience, mock your progress. But while they rage in the short term, you invest in the long term. You wake up, you train, you build, you move, inch by inch. Because the Stoic doesn't race, he endures. This isn't just about outworking others. It's about refusing to lose yourself. Every time you choose structure over distraction, repetition over emotion, purpose over pride, you create a quiet dominance. Not loud, not dramatic, but permanent. Discipline protects your energy. It removes you from the battlefield most men die on. The war for approval, the addiction to attention, the obsession with revenge. While they fight for moments, you build for decades. And when time reveals the truth, when their energy burns out, when the noise dies down, it's the man who stayed committed, who's still standing, focused, grounded, ahead. The Stoic wins by becoming the kind of man who cannot be moved off a course. His enemy runs out of tactics long before he runs out of time. That's how you defeat them. You don't overpower them. You outlast them. Tactic 15. Win without needing to win. Now imagine this. You're face to face with someone who's trying to provoke you. They insult you, misrepresent you, push your buttons. They expect retaliation. They want to drag you into a reaction. But you just stand there, still, clear-eyed, unshaken. You don't respond with fire. You don't respond at all. You just smile and walk away because you've already won. This is the 15th and final Stoic tactic. Win without needing to win. Seneca wrote, "To be provoked by an insult is to submit to it." The Stoic knows that the need to win, especially in petty, emotional battles, is just another form of dependence. It means you're still tethered to the opinions of others, still seeking control over things outside yourself, still chasing validation. And as long as you're chasing, you're not free. Winning without needing to win doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're above it. It means you've detached your sense of identity from the outcome. It means you've reached a level of inner stillness that no insult, argument, or attack can disturb. You don't need to prove them wrong. You don't need to get the last word. You don't need the world to see that you were right all along. You know who you are, and that's enough. This kind of psychological mastery is rare because most people are addicted to the illusion of victory. They want applause, recognition, a scoreboard that shows they came out on top. But the Stoic doesn't play for trophies. He plays for freedom. And freedom means walking away with your peace intact, even when your pride screams to stay and fight. It means smiling in the face of provocation, in knowing, I've already won because I refuse to become like them. Here's the paradox. When you stop needing to win, you gain a power your enemy can't understand. They throw every tactic at you, baiting, insulting, escalating, and still, they can't touch you. That's when they realize they're not in control of the outcome. You are. And the final move, the quietest, most devastating move of all, is to walk away, not because you're defeated, but because you've risen so far above the game, it no longer even matters. The Stoic's greatest victory is the one he never had to fight for. Now you've seen them. 15 Stoic tactics to defeat your enemies without ever raising your voice. No fists, no shouting, no ego, just clarity, stillness, precision. These aren't tricks. They aren't hacks. They are ancient weapons, sharpened in silence, tested in chaos, and wielded through discipline. But remember this, the real enemy has never been out there. Is not the man who disrespected you, not the friend who betrayed you, not the stranger who tried to humiliate you. The real battle is within, against your own reaction, your own ego, your own need to win. And if you can master that, if you can stay composed when others crumble, if you can remain rooted when others rage, if you can choose reason when everything pulls you toward reaction, then you won't just win the moment, you'll win yourself. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to our channel for more Stoic wisdom. See you in the next video.